You're listening to the Get the Pancake podcast, helping volleyball coaches have their best season yet.
Hi there, coaches. This is Whitney from the Get the Pancake podcast, a podcast for volleyball coaches. I get a lot of questions through Facebook and Instagram, which, by the way, is why I started the Volleyball Coaches Corner Facebook group. There will be links to that in the show notes. And while most questions have pretty straightforward answers, every once in a while I'll get a question that really gets me thinking. So recently, a coach asked me for my opinion on players using their legs while passing. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, let me break it down really quick for you. Basically, when we teach players how to pass, we'll teach them to step, get their feet set, and then lift with the legs. So it's step, step, lift. But the question was, does that change as players get older? And if so, when exactly does that change happen? And how are we supposed to teach that change in technique? And on the surface, this seemed like a pretty basic question, but the more that I thought about it, the more I realized that it was worth diving into on the podcast. And I think it's worth discussing because it forces you to focus on something really minor that most of us probably don't ever pay attention to. I know I never really thought about this, and it's just one of those things that I think people catch on to even without being explicitly taught. And since I've never thought about it, I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of other coaches out there who will feel the same way. Now, I have focused on the angle of our platform in a short article on Get the Pancake, which I'll link to in the show notes. But we're going to go even deeper and talk about how players should and shouldn't be using their legs while passing. And once we work through this, you'll have another way of helping your athletes get better in defense. Not only that, but you can also talk it through with other coaches and get their opinions. So while I might say something is good for 16U, in your area it might work best at the 14U level. Or maybe coaches in your area will have an entirely different strategy. What's important is to be intentional about what you're doing and have consensus with other coaches so that you're teaching the same things to your teams and in your programs. You don't want to be teaching skills one way at 12U and then have your 14 and under coaches expecting an entirely different strategy. So it is always a great idea to talk things out with another coach, especially if there's someone higher up in your organization who's going to be getting your athletes later on, because we do want to prepare our athletes for those coaches. So the technique in question: should players be engaging their legs to pass the ball? And we're getting back to that lifting motion. So it's not quite standing straight up, but it's definitely giving the ball a little boost. And I started this thought process with, well, of course they should be engaging their legs. That's how we teach the players when they start. So that must continue on, right? But the more that I thought about it and talked it through with this coach, I realized that we teach that when players are younger because we want them to hold their platform steady, but the ball is coming so slow that if they didn't use their legs, the ball just wouldn't get anywhere near the target. So with middle school players, maybe even a little older, the ball is just moving too slowly to not use the legs. However, as the ball starts coming faster and harder, we definitely don't want to be adding any extra pace to the pass. Letting the ball bounce off of the platform is often more than enough. In fact, at the higher levels, I would even argue that you want your players to almost absorb the pass, just in an effort to keep it on your side of the net. But when does this change occur? When do we go from encouraging our players to use their legs to add power to the pass to more directing the ball with their platform and just using the energy from the hit? I think this happens as soon as your opponents start hitting the ball down over the net instead of up and over. In my experience, this is around freshman year in school ball and about 14U for club. Again, this could be and is probably different in your area. But as soon as you notice that the attacks don't have that initial upward motion, it's time to work with your players on directing the ball instead of bumping the ball. So here's a really simple way to think about this. Let's say that you're doing a basic passing drill where you're standing on the same side of the court as your players and you're hitting at them in left back. You've got them in a line and they're just passing to a target. If you're coaching younger players who do need to use their legs for power, I would make sure that you're hitting some sort of a chip or a roll shot at them that has that upward motion in the beginning and then drops to them instead of hitting directly at them. This pace is much more similar to what they'll see in a game, and it will help them develop the right technique of engaging those legs and using those legs to power the ball all the way to target. And honestly, if you could hit it over the net to them, I think that'd be even better. I do have a passing progression video on YouTube if you just want to watch a really short way to work into this with your players. So the link will be in the show notes on the website. If you're coaching older players who need to work more on directing the ball, I would recommend that you either hit it directly at them with some pace if you have to be on the same side of the net as them, or get up on a box to hit down at them. We want to attempt to mimic the speed that they will see in games. And at this stage, we want our players to focus on keeping their legs quiet, which is what I call just keeping them still, and making sure that they're getting in place and then directing the ball with their platform. Now, once we get up to varsity or 16 and under, or maybe even advanced 14 and under, I don't know. Again, it depends on your area. But for older players, this is where you can start swinging harder at them or using actual players, which is my preference, and work on both directing the ball and doing what I call absorbing the pass. So by absorbing, I don't mean that we're pulling our arms back as we're making contact with the ball, but what I do mean is that we're not holding our platform firmly in place after contact has been made. We're going to let our platform sort of snap back and soften just a bit to take a little pace off of the pass. And I'll be honest with you, I have had disagreements with other coaches on this concept of absorbing, and that's fine. Maybe that's not something that you want to teach. It is something that I teach, and I think it works just fine. So I'm still standing behind it because in my experience, that is how you control the ball the best. But again, I'm encouraging you to talk it out with other coaches, your director, just volleyball friends. Ask them what they think about absorbing the ball and think critically about it as well. Go out and test it for yourself and see if you think it makes a big enough difference to teach or if you have a different opinion on how to soften those hits. Well, first of all, I'd like it if you could share that with me, but just make sure that you are coaching with intention, with a reason. You have your why for why you're teaching things a certain way. And just because these players have harder passes coming towards them doesn't mean that we're completely eliminating the use of our legs. We're still going to be lifting that ball up with our legs when there's a free ball or a softer hit comes over. So that technique does not disappear. We're just adding more tools to the toolbox for your players. Again, I'm encouraging you to talk it out with other coaches. And while I'm on the topic of talking things through with other coaches, I want to let you know about a new program that I'm putting together. It's called the Volleyball Coaches Mastermind Group. I'll have more information coming out very soon, but basically, it's a program where I'll provide you with weekly discussion topics. We'll have a community of coaches who you can talk with about your season, and everything's going to be facilitated to help you reach your goals for the upcoming season. As I said, more information is coming soon, so if you'd like to get on a list to learn more and be notified when registration opens, you can sign up at getthepancake.com. Just look for the information on the Mastermind group or click the link in the show notes to add your email. One more time, more information is coming soon, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that opportunity with this community. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast this week. I hope this quick but in-depth discussion on passing technique was helpful for you. If you enjoyed this episode, or really any episode, I would love it if you could write a review or share that favorite episode with a coaching friend. Don't forget to check out all the links mentioned throughout this week's show. Those are in the show notes and on getthepancake.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to having you back next week for the next episode of the Get the Pancake podcast.